It's been a while, but we're back. A new day has dawned. I'm your host, Kana, and you've just entered the lab. Here's our first review, Alone in the Dark for the 360.
Alone in the Dark, released in 2008. Yeah, this is an old one, but I got my hands on it recently while passing through a GameStop in Florida, and it turned out to be one pretty decent investment. Not a complete waste of money. What we have here is a survival horror game with a few twists. Some good, some bad. Here's the breakdown.
We must reach the park.
The story is an odd one, and not one I choose to get into at the risk of spoilers. Just know it's pretty interesting for those who can keep up, but forgettable for those who couldn't care less.
What's going on with the stone? It's the epicenter. You're the only one that can stop this, Edward.
Central Park, demons, the apocalypse, yeah, you need to see it for yourself.
Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing here.
You're our only salvation.
The parts of this game that gets a thumbs up from us are these. First, the graphics. For a game that was released so long ago, the graphics are pretty good, especially the in-game cinematic, real nice and smooth. Then we have the realism factor. At some points in the game you'll see where this was a bit overdone, and in some cases it completely defeated the purpose, but for most parts this added element of realism was appreciated. The realism goes over into my next high point of the game, the puzzle solving. Nothing too difficult like Tomb Raider and Lara's earlier days, but still a decent challenge. Where the realism and the puzzles combine are in places where the puzzles deviate from your regular video game puzzle feel. You know, like when you walk a mile to pull a switch then come all the way back to the door? Yeah, nothing like that. Instead, the puzzles are set up in a more real-world way. You might have to look out for, let's say, a falling electrical wire to climb on or something to shoot at that's not in an obvious place.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
This style of puzzle solving is interesting. Appreciated, but can still leave you stuck while looking out for some more conventional video game style solutions, if you know what I mean.
Just breathe.
Oh God, it was sucking the life from me.
Another thumbs up for the overall game design. Not all good, but for most parts impressive. Combining a spray can with a lighter to make a flamethrower, or a bandage with a bottle of alcohol to make a handy little Molotov cocktail. Yeah. The way the levels are designed also adds a point for overall game design. Another plus would go to the voice acting. Very convincing, very A-list sounding.
Hey, lighten up. At least we can trust each other.
You don't even know who I am, Sarah.
Thumbs up to the scores as well. Here's where Alone in the Dark starts to tumble a little downhill for me though. The controls in Alone in the Dark are very questionable. Walking or running about is one thing that can feel a bit awkward at times, but then driving even gets worse. Really clumsy and unrealistic driving physics. Yeah, I know this isn't Gran Turismo or Need for Speed, but a little more effort in the handling of the cars would have been appreciated. Then the switch from third person to first person is something you'll be doing a lot of. And until you've played a few hours straight to this game, that might also seem really clumsy. Sighting through your jacket can also be a bit of a bother. You can create shortcuts to get the combos done faster, but it still feels really clumsy. Then there's the combat issues. Look, when you end up playing a game that motivates you to run as opposed to standing and facing your enemies, then you know you have a problem. In Alone in the Dark, killing these possessed demons from the bowels of Hades is a bit too big a production for me. First up, only fire can kill them. And this is funny, Because, you know, one would think from all the stories we've heard, hell is supposed to be filled with fire. But whatever, you need fire. Your bullets are pretty much useless without some alcohol to turn them into flaming bullets. So in order to kill these demons otherwise, you have to have certain combinations, like some kind of aerosol combined with a lighter or a bottle of rum. This again is just clumsy and unnecessary. If you knock one of these demons out with a melee weapon or enough bullets, you had better drag him to a burning pile somewhere and torch him quickly, or they'll just come back as strong as ever. Now the last time I remember seeing this level of awkwardness was in The Thing. I played it on the Xbox and I didn't miss it. An unnecessary element in my opinion. Another thumbs down goes to the many glitches and invisible walls. Sometimes you're running about and you find yourself stuck somewhere, and this happens even more when you're driving. There are also a lot of other unnecessary factors I could do without in this game. Some poor attempts at realism. An example would be like, let's say, hot wiring a car. Fine, it's understandable. You jump into a car in the middle of the apocalypse and there are no keys in the ignition. That's fine, but this happens way too often, and there are way too many other unrealistic things happening in this game to be clinging on to crap like that. Why not have realistic additions that aid the player than those that would only serve to hinder? Like, let's say a well-placed headshot actually takes a demon down for good, and not this whole fire crap. And if you insist on the whole fire thing, then let's have a flamethrower or two lying around, you know? And maybe a couple flashlights with batteries that last for more than a minute and a half.
Take it easy, Edward. I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation.
And why in the middle of all this chaos does your character make the decision that he should never run? Yeah, he only jogs. Now is it that this guy is just too cool to run from an oncoming horde of bloodthirsty, soul-devouring demons? Is that it? Or is it the fact that he's 100 years old?
Disappeared under strange circumstances in 1938. I mean, you're like 100 years old.
Nah, doesn't fly for me. The whole spectral vision thing is also another story, but I won't spoil it for those who've never played it. Go walk down that road yourself.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Alone in the Dark for most parts, and for those who have the patience to get used to this kind of game design, is a good game. But I believe designers need to pay more attention to creating user-friendly games instead of embarking on quests to create something original that's only going to appeal to the hardest of the hardcore. Think about it. The Call of Duty series, a great franchise. Great games that are easy to get into. I'm not saying everybody can play it, but you get my point. Original is good, but not if it alienates the gamers in the process. The Lab gives Alone in the Dark a 6 out of 10. Stick around, the Lab caught up with recording artist Alex of the popular group Tioki on his European spring tour to see what he's playing. Remember to follow us on Twitter at the Lab Game TV and send us a request on Facebook. We're always happy to hear from our gamers.
Area 51 hosted a new Tekken 6 tournament for the hardest of the hardcore. Let's take a look.
Today we're going to be having what we call a tournament, Area 51 closing down the curtains. We're going to be having tournaments on Call of Duty Black Ops, we're going to be having one on Gears of War 2 and also Tekken 6. They're the most played games at the shop, so we thought it best to have tournaments on those. Well, first of all, we decided to have this to be an all-out. Basically, what we mean by that is that it's no holds barred. We're having a knockout, that's the format that we're going to be having it in, and for all the games, that's what the format we've decided to have it on. We have over 30 players, well 40 if you count all the games. Some persons are playing more than one games, so it's about 40 players. And we're going to be splitting up persons in teams for Call of Duty and for Gears of War. For Tekken, it's only single players.
Round 3.
I'm there for the Tekken competition still. I'm really sure all the things team has to do my best and see how it turn out.
Now, let's take a look at Borderlands for the 360.
Borderlands, a game set on this barren planet called Pandora where humans basically fight for the only good thing this planet has left to offer. A place called the Vault. The Vault is said to contain great riches hidden away centuries ago by an alien civilization.
On a distant corner of Pandora, where few men dare to tread. With the journey to find the elusive vault.
So naturally, if you have a planet that's pretty much a wasteland with only one redeeming element, then throw on this planet a bunch of bloodthirsty bounty hunters and mercs whose sole intent is to retrieve this element, what do you think will happen? That's right, carnage and chaos fueled by rage and greed. Let the good times roll. Here are my thumbs up for Borderlands. First, the cel-shaded graphics, amazing. Just the kind of look you need for this RPG first-person shooter. Definitely adds to the feel of the game. Then this RPG element makes for a good change of pace and style from what we're used to in most first-person shooters. Sometimes after playing games like, let's say, a Call of Duty for a long time, I like to detox. Get away from the first-person shooter genre. But it's okay to move from a Halo or Call of Duty and move over to Borderlands, because even though games like Call of Duty and the Medal of Honor have character development elements, there's nothing like a true RPG. I mean, yeah, some might argue that this is no Final Fantasy. Sure, but you get the point. The controls in Borderlands are really smooth and easy to get into, especially for those of us who play a lot of Call of Duty. Controls are very similar. How's that feel?
Scooter asked me to tell you about a little something he needs done.
The voice acting adds another notch to the belt. Very convincing, keeps you entertained all the way through, with light humor and great storytelling.
Our fearless adventurers set off into the trees of...
What's a tree?
Oh, for the angel's sake. It's a plant that grows out of the ground really tall.
The scores also fit like a glove. Most appropriate for the kind of game Borderlands is. For every moment of this game, there's an appropriate soundtrack. While roaming this wasteland, the music helps to pull you in, you know? Adds that much needed element of misery and destitution. The multiplayer, well done, from the dreaded split screen to the system link to the masterfully executed online mode. Up to 4 players can go at it cooperatively. This works well, especially when you find yourself a few levels too low to pass a certain point. You can get some assistance from someone with a higher skill level to help you breeze through it. Of course, the disadvantages of online co-op remains the same. You're playing with strangers, so while you might be ready to play this game till your eyes start to bleed, your teammate might just be in it for a quick thrill. But such is life, make the best of it. The various weapons you have at your disposal seem almost infinite though. There seems to be always another interesting or powerful toy to play with and help you get through the wastelands in one piece. And of course, in true RPG fashion, specific weapons work better against specific enemy types.
Nailed it!
Some of the less than perfect elements of Borderlands would be things like these, glitches. Glitches similar to Alone in the Dark. Sometimes you actually get stuck between places like rocks. This happens mostly while driving though. Several times I found myself in a spot where I had to just up and leave the car behind. Then there's the weapon damage. Now I know this is an RPG and one must level up in order to take out stronger enemies. I'm used to it. But certain things are just plain ridiculous and should not exist. Take this for example, a headshot. Now a headshot should be a headshot in any language. Whether you're at level 1 or 100, a bullet should be treated as a bullet. You equip your sniper rifle, have the enemy in your crosshairs. One shot to the head should suffice, but no, not in Borderlands. Sometimes you'll find yourself running out of bullets before the enemy falls, and that's just unacceptable. I understand the whole leveling up concept of RPGs, but I still believe a headshot should always count for something. I mean, you'll shoot somebody, the word pops up that says critical, but he keeps on coming. No, the last time I checked, critical did not mean okay. Then there's a repetitive dialogue, which really isn't so bad but worth mentioning. You see, the things said in Borderlands are well said. Like I told you earlier, the voice acting is good and sometimes downright hilarious, but these guys seem to run out of lines a bit too soon. You find them regurgitating lines a bit too often. But it's all love. At the end of the day, Borderlands is still one great game. With a decent story, great graphics, great controls, well put together RPG elements, good voice acting and all around audio, a robust weapon selection and great online functions, the lab gives Borderlands an 8 out of 10.
It's a beautiful day, full of opportunity.
The lab met up with Alex at the Berlin Wall in Germany to see what's in his console.
Time it's a no, forevermore and beyond. I'm scared, we was so then. You are me, you are me, you are me, you are my friend for life. Yeah, you are me, you are me, you are me, you are my friend for life. Yeah. I woulda never take your life. I woulda never check your wife. You are me, you are me, you are me. Link.
Alex.
Yeah.
What are the games about recently?
Okay, recently about Michael Jackson Experience or the Xbox 360. I haven't actually played it yet. I bought it on this trip, so definitely when I go back to Jamaica, I'm gonna check it out. Also for the PS3 about Marvel vs. Capcom, the brand new Marvel vs. Capcom game. That is crazy. It's off the chain, you know what I mean? For all those gamers out there, you know what I mean? For me personally, I don't get to play video games as much as I would normally want to, because at the end of the day, you know, workload is now a lot greater. You have to do a lot more stuff, so you have less time to kind of relax and chill, but you still need to have that escape and that vibe. Also, more crazy, I went into a play and trade video game store, and in that store I got some old-time ancient Nintendo cartridges that have not been seen since like 400 BC. You understand? So I'm looking forward to actually going home and brushing off the Nintendo, and so I can go on for the youths them, you know, see if it actually works, you know, Punch Out. You know, all the people who used to have them games back in them days, you know, them things that's classic, you know, them things that sell like crazy money on eBay, you know. So think of the game thing as kind of like an investment, you see? Alright. Right now, get your game on. You're watching the lab. Crazy. Alex T. Dot here in Germany. Let's get. Let's go.
Stick around. We have a lot more gaming info coming up and our opinion on the iPad versus the BlackBerry Playbook. For back episodes of The Lab, check us out on YouTube. It's The Lab Game TV.
The Lab passed through the regional qualifiers for the upcoming World Championship Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament. Here's what went down.
I'm Lastarda Lee. I'm the tournament organizer for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament going on currently. This is called a regional tournament. With a regional tournament, you'll be able to qualify to enter nationals as well as gain invitation to go over to enter the intercontinentals. Also, we'll be having a open national event which will be held May 28th, which anybody can come in and enter, and the first place will be travel stipend and accommodations to go over to Chile and represent the country.
Okay, the rules of Yu-Gi-Oh! Are two players playing a game using a minimum deck of 40 cards. Basically, the game has different type of cards: monsters, magic, spells, fusion cards, and it uses strategy to build up the gameplay as you go along, and wits, basically.
My hopes for the tournament is that we can have more players going to represent Jamaica overseas.
The video game comparing to the actual game itself, the video game has to do with more luck. The actual game, the joy and everything, the intent you get from the joy and the cards and all, great.
The video game, it's not really all that bad, but it's competitive, although some of the people over while playing it, they really know some of the rulings and some of the cards, but it's alright, it's fun, does fair, but overall I'm rather the card game itself.
On the next episode of The Lab, we'll have an in-depth review on this long-awaited title, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Was it worth the wait? Our resident tech guru gave us the 411 on these two devices, the iPad versus the BlackBerry Playbook.
Alright, Kena, here's what we got today. BlackBerry Playbook, Apple iPad, version 1. Alright, let's talk portability. Now, as is obvious here, the Playbook is smaller than the iPad. I mean, 7 inches versus nearly 10 inches. Playbook lighter at around 400 grams. This, 600 grams. Obviously, there are pros and cons. I mean, screen size on this, you know, the real estate is beneficial for movies and browsing. While this works just fine, far more portable. I mean, fit into any bag. I mean, just easy to take anywhere. The BlackBerry Playbook incorporates more gestures. You know, you swipe up to bring the device out of standby. Diagonal swipes to bring down options and all that for the specific app you're using. So really all of that minimizes the need for buttons, although there are buttons on the device. I mean, we'll have a play, pause, forward, back, and the power button. You rarely need to use the buttons. Whereas the iPad, it has one button. You kind of think that Apple would have been more the ones to eliminate the use of a button, but they've got a button. Now Apple doesn't offer or doesn't incorporate as many gestures as BlackBerry does with the Playbook. So they use that single button there in the screen there, below the screen for going back and that sort of thing. The playbook, really, real emphasis on gestures and really cool, got to say, you know. Alright, let's talk apps. Now, as you know, Apple, iTunes, the king of apps. I mean, they're clearly the leaders with as far as apps. RIM, BlackBerry, BlackBerry's app world is, you might say, struggling but making some headway as far as increasing the available apps. The BlackBerry Playbook offers what's called BlackBerry Bridge. BlackBerry Bridge allows the Playbook to get along really nicely with your BlackBerry smartphone. Of course, OS 6 and above. Now, you connect the two via a secure Bluetooth connection, and you're able to access all your personal information management apps, you know, your calendar, address book, email, and as of today I have BlackBerry Messenger, your memo, your tasks. You can access files on your BlackBerry smartphone. All of this just adds up to a fantastic thing, you know. Now, gaming, again, we got games on there. The Playbook comes preloaded with Need for Speed and Tetris. Two great, I think, are two awesome choices for native games on the device. I mean, straight out of the box. The iPad, well, as far as I know, there are no games pre-installed on there, but the app store is full of gaming. Need for Speed, Undercover, Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit. It's got a lot going on. We have to hand it to Apple. The iPad has a fantastic and obviously bigger screen. Really awesome right there. The apps available to the user, can't argue with that, them win with that. However, my pick is the BlackBerry Playbook. It's a no-brainer for a BlackBerry user, I believe. The portability factor, huge for me. Flash support with the web browser, another huge thing. For me, it's a Playbook hands down. Hey, hope you found this helpful. If you didn't know, now you know. Just remember who boss you.
Well, thanks for sticking with us. But before I leave, let me tell you about a few websites that might just be right up your alley. For a more mature experience where you can go on a forum and say, I love my PS3 without being flamed by some 15-year-old Nintendo fanboy, visit maturegamers.com. And for the latest in tech news, follow a true guru at WhoBossYou on Twitter. And follow The Lab, of course, at The Lab Game TV on Twitter. And on Facebook, it's the same. Stop by our YouTube page to check out back episodes with our girl PG. That's The Lab Video Game TV. So, until next time, remember, our game is never over.